The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good morning. Nice to see some familiar names on the list there. Thank you for attending. Good morning. Welcome to the AFI webinar. This is a quarterly webinar that we hold and typically do it on different subjects, but due to the annual UK Plasma Tower Safety Week, I thought it appropriate to do this subject today on towers, alloy towers. So just supporting the cause. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Brian Parker, and I'm the business development manager, technical support for AFI Group, and for my sins, chairman of the Plasma Training Committee, of which I was brought in this year. So proud to be taking that role for the next 2 years. For those that are joining the webinar for the first time, running time is approximately 45 minutes, and there will be a short Q&A session at the end, and just really sort of, if you've got any questions, you feel that perhaps I've not covered something, or indeed you've got something that you would like me to discuss or answer, then put a question to me. As always, I'll do my utmost to get these answered during the webinar, but for those that I can't, I will answer after the webinar privately. Little bit about me. As you can see there, I've got various sort of roles within the business. I suppose really in terms of given today the tower side of things, I first went on a tower when probably 1990, maybe 1989, when I joined the forces. First ever tower in the Royal Engineers. Building towers to support quite a large structure. Back in the day, as you could probably appreciate, very little in terms of safety. You're up there, you've got no guardrails, 40, 50 foot up in the air. This is where we're outside, quite a large tower, and doing what needed to be done. And glad to see now that safety has moved on, a huge amount. But enough about me and enough about the memories that I have. In terms of the Plasma side of things, for those of you who don't know Plasma, the Prefabricated Access Suppliers and Manufacturers Association, and it is an international not-for-profit industry body for mobile access tower sector. They are the subject matter expert for all things related to mobile access towers. And in terms of they care. They care about people. Making sure that people go home and making sure people go home to the family. And only looking on the web last night, and you're just sort of in prep for today. Of falls over the last 5 years, 186 people have died following a fatal fall from height. So 186 people didn't go home to their families. 28,000 people injured following a fall from height. And 30 to 40% of all serious injuries or fatalities follow on from a fall from height, and that's worldwide. Now, them statistics that I mentioned earlier, they are UK statistics. They're taken from the Health and Safety Executive data, but that's harrowing figures there. There's all sorts of ways and means in terms of in doing things. But just a little bit about Plasma, so you understand it. Their strength essentially is in their membership. They represent all aspects of the industry, from manufacturers of towers to, of course, users, instructors, and of course down to the rental companies. Plasma's technical guidance is recognised by the Health and Safety Executive, and to date they've trained over about 75,000 people last year, and they work internationally promoting the safe use of mobile access towers around the world. Now, they also advance standards and best practice, and they oversee the delivery of the industry's training scheme. So Plasma, for them, their natural focus and their authority is for the mobile access tower industry. In addition to this, Plasma provide advice, guidance and support to its members and the industry at large. So it is very positive, proactive, and building a safety culture that's central to its own role. So what we're going to cover on this in this webinar, essentially it's in 5 parts. We'll start with the safe use of mobile access towers and low level, before even exactly why we need inspection and recording and critical to safe use, and what products there are. Now EN 1004 is currently in review, and we know PASMA knows some of the proposed changes now, and we'll have a quick overview of what perhaps to expect. And finally, we'll look at some of the mistakes that people do make when using mobile access towers, and see if we can get a bit of interaction at that point. Okay, you'll see down on the right hand, on my screen on the right hand side, I'm not sure actually where it pops up on your side, but there is opportunity to put questions. So if you have got any questions throughout, please note I won't do it during the webinar, but I will, try and catch them at the end. Okay, so just to make sure you're okay with that. So there are many ways to work at height, but why select a mobile access tower? Clearly towers are a lightweight option for safe working at height, and ideally they're suited to provide a temporary working platform. The towers are modular and they're manufactured from lightweight materials, so essentially the components themselves are easy to transport and very easy to inspect. In partnership with the Health and Safety Executive, PASMA have identified 2 agreed options and methods for the safe assembly and dismantling of towers, and these are known as the 3T method and the AGR system, AGR Advanced Guardrail System. Now, PASMA trains and instructs the delegates that come on the course on the correct application of both options. So if you send operatives delegates on a course, they will basically cover both of these agreed methods. So towers can be used in multiple configurations, meaning they're much more than capable of just what we would consider to be a standard tower assembly. We see a standard tower assembly there that on that picture on the left hand side using the AGR system, but there are many more sort of dynamic ways in which we can use a tower. So in truth, it's fairly simple to assemble. It doesn't require any specialist tools or equipment, and clearly does provide a safe working platform. Now, tool and plant hire sectors and rental sectors are major suppliers of mobile access towers, and these are both for construction and maintenance industries. You can frequently see mobile access towers delivered to site, at the same time as the task equipment required to undertake the particular task, and they're going to put the tower up, carry out the necessary inspections, and then use it accordingly. So fairly simple, fairly straightforward. Now, I mentioned earlier, PASMA worked with the Health and Safety Executive to define 2 options for the safe assembly of mobile access towers, and they were, again, just to remind you, the 3T, what we call through the trap, and the AGR, the Advanced Guardrail. So here is an actual still image taken from the new PASMA user course, and this clearly shows operatives in this situation using the 3T method to ensure that the people that's building it, that are either adapting it, modifying it, dismantling it, remain in a protected position to ensure the work is carried out safely, and they're not working on an unguarded edge as such. So you can see the gentleman on the left hand side fitting the platform, and then you can see the lady on the right hand side there taking up a position through the trap, hence the term, and the operative passing up the guardrails so she can basically put them into place like so. And then basically, obviously, once the guardrails are located by the operative from a protected position, as you can see in this slide, this then requires the operative to sit on the platform until all them horizontal guardrails are in place. Now, only once all them 4 horizontal guardrails are in place should that person, that lady in this case, stand on that platform. It is an actual, you can actually fail the course on the PASMA course if the person stands up there and there's no guardrails fitted, and that's happened on PASMA tower courses that I've run in the past, and unfortunately it's not a good discussion, but it is part of what we teach. Build sequence basically means the mobile access towers has to be built with the smallest frame at the base of the tower, and this then always ensures that the guardrail frames are in place before standing on the platform. Okay, so fairly straightforward, hence why it's called through the trap. It's a well used, well documented assembly method. You can see on here, and hopefully you can see there, that this side of the guardrails are clipped in, but the ones at the back aren't. So once the 4 guardrails in this situation, because it's a single platform, are in position, then the lady will stand up, walk to the back, and click them guardrails in, and at all times she's protected from falling. Okay, and then the build will continue up to the next level. Okay, so conversely, the alternative build option, recognised PASMA and the health and safety executive, is known as the advanced guardrail. And the AGR system is provided by a number of manufacturers. On an AGR tower, the frames are located in position before the platform decks. So essentially, you can see the operative on the left-hand side there, fitting the AGR rails to the sections to the uprights, and then you can see on the right hand side then positioning the boards in place. And then clearly once they've actually positioned them boards in place, as they climb up, the guardrails are already in place. And the same thing now happens again. They'll put another set of frames up on top on the left hand side, do the same again, put the advanced guardrail in place, hence the term advanced guardrail, and then place the boards in. So this is a system rather than a method, and it's important you understand that the 3T is a method. There's a methodology there. This is a system build essentially, and you can see that advantage. Handrails are going to be on in place at the correct height before they've even got up into the platform. So essentially, there's providing there's no horseplay and such, there's no essential risk of falls. So just to reiterate, the advantages of through the trap. It's obviously clearly easy to store and transport the braces. It's versatile in its configuration. It can use existing tower components. Obviously, there are, there's got to be ensuring that the towers are from the same manufacturers and such. But basically, again, build to the manufacturer's spec and the instruction manual that will be supplied with the machine. Okay, from the AGR part of things, if some of you have ever built the tower using the 3T method, I can tell you now from experience, whenever you put the AGR in front of people, certainly delegates, they sometimes look and thinking, God, this is going to take forever. It's simple, it's faster to assemble and dismantle in its standard application. Remember, this is a system rather than a method. It's essentially you've always got people working on the platform then with full side protection before they get up there, and clearly it's less components to transport than the 3T method. Okay, so hopefully that's the two methods put in there, and hopefully that makes sense. You can see there's been a fall protection review, and and PASMA work very, very closely with these sort of things, and the key factors in specifying the appropriate assembly option. So I just want to put this in here. Which option are you going to specify on your jobs? Again, does cost factor in? Is the speed factor in? Is it the experience of the operator? Is it essentially down to user preference? Sometimes we don't really understand perhaps what's out there, and until you've actually seen them actually being built, realizing the benefits for them. Now, basically PASMA have produced a fall protection review, and it gives you details on both options and PASMA views on when appropriate to select a certain type of tower, so either a 3T or a system building in terms of an AGR system. Okay, but again, in terms of these, fairly straightforward and fairly straight to the point. Okay, so just moving on, we're now going to look at low-level access. It's fair to say this has changed dramatically over the last 15 years, and basically in terms of in terms of the PAS 250 to 8620, basically the publicly available specification is sponsored route to help standardize a product. So those of you who are familiar with the PAS 250, so PAS creates a framework for industry to work with the regulators, and any companies potentially adopting the PAS are essentially subscribing to good practice, and then So essentially, you're working to the PAS 250. This helps to build buyer and user trust in a product and service. And clearly, it's going to go through its trials and its testing and and any sort of changes and whatnot. But at the end of it, hopefully, you've then got a product that is essentially been tested by the industry, as opposed to some manufacturers just throwing the product out. Now, PASMA sponsored the PAS 250, helped set the benchmark for low-level access products. Okay. And this was published back in 2012, so it's been doing the rounds for some years. And essentially, it's basically looking at the low-level stuff for the one-person work platforms, or what we know as podiums, and it focused on the obvious things of design. It's clearly got to be able to get in there and do the job. Who's going to verify that it's right? Which manufacturers are going to design and manufacture and build them? And then, of course, instruction manuals. What content goes into an instruction manual? What clearly there's all sorts of other aspects in there in terms of training. What labels does it need on the side of it, etc. So there's quite a few things there to sort of think and consider. And the current situation is, you've got action. And this is going down the line here. You'll see shortly. We're kind of highlighting some of the issues here very shortly. So. This was reviewed by a panel of industry experts, including users. So, best way to get involvement is get the people at the coalface involved. Does it work? Does it do what it needs to do? Clearly, the health and safety executive and trade associations, and then to include to sort of enable that transition from a British standard PAS 250 was reviewed by a panel of industry experts, including representatives from, as we said, the users, HSE and trade, and the trade, of course, included PASMA. Now, lessons learned from the drafting and implementation of PASMA are reflected in BS 8620, with essentially improved stability and enhanced specifications for side protection, meaning there'll be even greater sort of buyer confidence with British standards recognition. So, we had the PAS 250, it did what it did, and then that's moving moved into 8620. So, do you use podiums? What's the current standard? What's the current? What do we need to think about? What recommendations? Well, PASMA recommendations, and to be clear, if you own or rent BS 8620 podiums, you are using products to their current standard. Continue to use them. Inspect as per the instructions supplied with the product. So no change essentially. If you own or rent PAS 250 products, you can clearly continue to use these if they're in good condition. However, PASMA do advise that you update your buying policy now to ensure that going forward only BS 8620 products are either rented or purchased in the future. And conversely, if you own or rent podiums without a recognised product standard, and there are some out there, PASMA would strongly recommend that you stop using that product and move to a compliant product immediately. Okay, so no issues at all there. Fairly clear guidance, and this was given to me by the managing director of PASMA and the team there. So just make sure that you're adhering to them sort of things, and hopefully you won't fall foul of any regulators as such. Okay, so moving on to what you should inspect and what to record. Now, PASMA frequently ask questions about inspection of mobile access towers. What should you inspect? What information to record? All that sort of thing does get asked quite frequently. And some of you might be familiar with the tower inspection record card, as you can see there. So worker height towers must be inspected as often as necessary to ensure safety. You should find some type of inspection record. Once a tower's been correctly built in accordance with the manufacturer instructions, you should find one of these attached, generally fixed to the base of the tower, possibly like the PASMA tower inspection record card or some other. Obviously, PASMA would like you to buy their cards because it does meet the requirements of the work at height regulations in terms of the fact that it's been built correctly, it's been inspected correctly, and you're displaying this, and it gives you a status to the inspection status. If there is a fault with it, for whatever reason, damage, piece missing, whatever, quite simply you would pull the green one out like you see on most construction sites or maintenance industry, and flip it round, and then you'll see on the back of it generally it's red. But basically it's a very quick visual indication of its status, and it does satisfy the requirements of the work at height regulations. So to me it's a no-brainer. In terms of the requirements, again, these are clearly defined. They should be inspected after assembly, after any alteration, after any adverse weather conditions, before dismantling, and at least every 7 days. Now that inspection must be taken and undertaken by a competent person. The results should be recorded and should be retained for reference. Now, PASMA's perspective is that it's essential that towers are inspected as often as is necessary, as I mentioned earlier, to ensure that the safety of people using the towers. Okay, not only does PASMA obviously carry out all the training courses, and there's a wide range of training courses from users for towers, for managers, to towers on stairs, to riggers and advanced courses. So there's more to just PASMA than just a tower course. There's more to it. So again, you've got to consider these things. But they do have a range of resources out there as well, and these are to help yourselves and managers of people and those who are working at height to understand their obligations. Now these are available in a range of sizes and formats, and the advice is invaluable for people working at height. So you can find more information at PASMA's website in their shop, or of course at any sort of PASMA training centre. These will become things like posters, pocket cards, quite easy to read and comprehend. The range of advice also goes on now to include a series of info sheets detailing key information to ensure you can also work well with towers. And you can see perhaps some of the info sheets here. If you log on to PASMA's website, www.pasma.co.uk, or download, of course, the PASMA app from the App Store, you then can get further guidance and support. Because with respect, we know you're busy people. You look at a tower and, hopefully it's got a green ticket attached to it. Happy days, move on. But is it built properly? Has it been inspected? Is it, what type of tower is it? Is it a system AGR? Is it a method 3T? Even look at them when they're building their towers. Do they sit down when they go through the trap? All them little things that you perhaps think, again, we're just trying to mitigate perhaps the risk of a serious incident. Okay, so PASMA website, and you should be able to get some information there. Obviously, if you go onto PASMA website at the moment, you'll probably see you'll be redirected to the PASMA Tower Week, of which it's champion at the moment. But you'll be able to navigate around their website. Okay, major part of PASMA's work is contributing to the setting of product standards, and a review of EN 1004, which is the product standard for mobile access towers, is currently underway. Now, whilst we don't know the final outcome yet, there are a few areas that PASMA are expecting to see changes, and now I'll attempt to try and explore them. And I say, anybody who's ever been involved with standards, you don't just get the UK contributing to that. Clearly, there's the rest of Europe at the moment going to sort of contribute to that, because it does affect them, and clearly we do ship towers out into other countries. So just bearing in mind that these towers do also get used around the world as well, and proudly we've got to say this: a lot of other countries look to what we do in the UK to sort of align their standards to us. So we've got to always stand up. We are a very safe country in that sense. So the put my teeth back in. The consultation phase is still going. It's expected to be there's a decision Q4. What next? Essentially, the current standard covers products from 2.5 meters high to 12 meters internally and 8 meters externally. So a key change is likely to be the update in the standard to start from ground level. So essentially getting rid of that first 2.5 meters. Then this means that all low-level scaffolds will then, when the standard is adopted, be covered by the standard. Now this, no matter what you think, I've just gone through the low-level stuff, this will bring a change to the industry. It will encourage innovation because clearly there will be new methods for accessing at low levels will need to be considered. And you've got to consider that there are going to be some perhaps things that people haven't sort of considered. The standard review is currently at comments resolution stage. PASMA does welcome the proposed changes, as they will be good for the sector, and will keep industry informed as the revision continues to its adoption. So fairly straightforward stuff, probably what you expect from a standard side of things. And at the end of the day, remember, this is about material dimensions, design, loads, safety and performance. So there's nothing about using it there properly. This is all about the tower and the components itself. Okay, so competence. The PASMA often and definitely wanted me to mention this, are frequently asked to clarify the position around training and competence. So essentially, the work at height regulations are clear. All persons working at height are required to be competent using the relevant equipment. They must be able to demonstrate their competence. So, okay, people at height. Okay, so I'm a tower user. I've built my tower using somebody else that's trained. We've built the tower. Does everybody on the tower have to be trained? These are the things. It says competence. The person, if I'm taking somebody else up there who is not a trained person, I've had that asked to me so many times, does that person have to be trained? And the answer is no, they have to be competent. How you deem that person to be competent, whether it's by putting them on the tower user course, brilliant, get them trained, there's no arguments there, or by doing some type of internal training, putting them on a work at height essentials course with PASMA. All them sort of things can contribute to that person being essentially competent. So in addition to setting product standards, not providing advice, good practice, and auditing members, PASMA also managed the industry's recognised training scheme. Okay, and some of you on this webinar this morning, I'm sure, have had delegates and operatives who have been on these courses. So from managers to users, novices to professional riggers, successfully completing the written and practical tests is an excellent way of demonstrating competence. Okay, so as you can see there, flagship Towers for Users course, Towers for Managers, so the training for managers, working at height novices. It's basically making sure people understand, what the fundamentals are with working on a tower. So I'm now going to focus essentially on ways in which you can make mobile access towers safer and consider some of the frequently asked questions that PASMA does receive. Okay, so what are the essential points to check when building towers? Like most things in life, starting with a good, firm, solid foundation. Foundations are should be level, firm and capable of taking the tower weight. Ensure there are no cable ducts, manhole covers or fragile surfaces beneath, and there could be a plethora of things underneath there. End of the day, what I'm sitting the tower on and any sort of material it's got to be borne by that weight. Always select the appropriate grounds, pads, supports, whatever you need to go under caster, under stabilizers and such, yeah. And never extend all 4 adjustable legs to their maximum height. If you need to gain extra height, instead of gaining extra height by other means, add more sections to the tower, again in accordance with its instructions provided. One thing that we often see, and it is a bit of a cause for concern, is people building towers on stairs. There is a training course, PASMA do deliver a training course, towers on stairs course, so it's a dedicated course, but more concerningly, often they find that they've ordered the wrong materials, they've not ordered enough frames and components, but more concerningly, they've not ordered any base plates. So if you're going to build a tower on a stair, it should always be using base plates, not using casters, for the obvious reasons. Somebody for want of a better word, unclips a caster or a caster fails or something like that, then it's going to roll off, it's going to come off the stairs, isn't it? So again, things that we get. So foundations may not always be flat. The foundation may be a stair, mightn't it, which clearly isn't flat, but we're going to put a base plate on there instead of a caster. That would be the ideal and the safer way. Stabilizers, major source of questions for PASMA. To be clear, stabilizers should be applied and fixed to the tower at the earliest opportunity, but you should always again follow the manufacturer's instruction manual. Check that stabilizers are correctly positioned for maximum effectiveness. So question, can you calculate the type of stabilizer to use by following the 3:1 height to base ratio rule? So essentially the 3:1 rule, for every 3 in height, you increase the base by 1. The answer is no. All right, and it always used to be always do 3:1, and that was pretty much common with everything. The answer is no. The only way you can check if you're using the correct stabilizer is refer to the instruction manual supplied with the tower. All right, don't get into the trap of thinking, if I can use them, I can fit them now. Check with the manufacturer's instruction manual and fit accordingly. Okay. You only have to go down the high street these days. You only have to go down, into some shopping centres, and horrifyingly seeing towers built without stabilisers. Even in our country, and you just got to be mindful that the thing does look stable, but things can happen. Okay, lower standards, is it? Question mark it. Well, it is a source of confusion for some people. They don't need training. You don't need toe boards because we're below a certain height. They've already had the PASMA user course. They don't need to do, they don't need to do anything else. They've been on a ladder course. They don't need to do these low level. So, don't even have to bother with handrails. It's all been there. To be clear, lower level does not mean lower standards, and it's often a real big confusion for some people. Frequently asked about the use of handrails, the minimum height to fit, does it need toe boards? To be clear, the requirements on training don't vary by height, but of course the risks can be amplified. So PASMA does provide bespoke training for working on low level platforms. Toe boards should be used in every situation where people or materials can fall from a platform, cause an injury, and clearly guardrails must be fitted. At the end of the day, remember the worker height regs now. We've had it for good 13 years. It's at any height. Okay, inspecting. We covered the resources available from PASMA earlier, and there's some really sort of great things there that you can download and even jumping on the app and using the app just to sort of check. But what are the key points to remember? Remember, as I reiterated earlier, the tower is to be inspected before use, after moving or dismantling, and at a maximum of 7-day intervals. And of course, in any situation likely to affect the tower. Today it's windy. The sun's out now. But it's still windy. We're going to be coming into the sort of the colder part of the year. We've been quite fortunate recently, but we're going to have snow. So there's all sort of aspects you need to consider. And also, retain any inspection record. How are you going to prove that you've had your towers inspected and you've been doing what the regulations state? And of course, receive a handover cert if you need it. For the tower if you need it. Okay, so just a little bit of defining competence then. So a bit of interaction really, and let's see what you see, the listeners feel with these statements. So on the, you'll see now I'm going to select a question. Do you think managers should check the competence of subcontractors? So I'm just going to launch this now. It takes a second. So if you can just answer that accordingly, please. Hopefully it's not a difficult one. It's still collating responses. Only 82% of you have voted, so I know that there's still quite a few of you not voted. 86, so some have just looked back at their screen or finished the cup of tea. Okay, I'm going to close that one. Okay, all right, that's good. Okay, I'm now going to look at the next one. Do you think that you should always check the PASMA operator's card before the tower is assembled? I'm just distributing this poll now, so you should see this coming up now. So do you think that you should always check the PASMA operator's card before the tower is assembled? Okay, a couple of seconds, only 78% of you have voted. Some of you are being shy on me. That's gone up now, thank you. I have a little screen in the corner so I can see when you're doing it. Okay, you've all voted now, well done, thank you. And the last question, only 3 to ask today. Okay, do you think a scaffold card demonstrates competence to build a mobile access tower? So some of you have seen the scaffold cards that you typically get on site. Okay, only 78% of you voted. 5 more seconds. Okay, all right, great. Okay, so that one was different to what I thought, but to give you an idea now is so we should always check the competence of subcontractors. At the end of the day, they're coming onto your projects, onto your sites, into your premises. Always check it, and I think most of you have probably got that bang on right. Yes, you should always check the operator's card before the tower is assembled. Okay, it may be out of date. He might just flash the card at you. You've seen all these things now. There's recently been somebody that's been prosecuted for fraudulent cards. How can you check that if that PASMA card is validated? Yeah, if you have any doubt, you can go onto the PASMA and speak to PASMA. And most of you has voted correctly on the last one. Somebody who's got a Scaffold card does not demonstrate competence to build a mobile access tower. No way. And that's good. Well done. Okay. So I'll just close them now. Brilliant. Okay. So just a little bit, final bit there to go through now, showing you a few areas of what PASMA is doing to make working at height safer. Okay, so PASMA champion all parts of the access sector through promotional work and campaigning. They establish good practice that members must follow. Okay, so we're a member of PASMA, we've got to follow. PASMA card is recognised by the HSE as an appropriate method for demonstrating working at height competence using mobile access towers. PASMA also work across government, trading standards, the health and safety to ensure that the benefits of using mobile towers are safely and appreciated by all. And remember, PASMA publish the guidance that we've got there that's growing by year on year, and it proves confidence in industry, confidence in the product. And last year PASMA raised and issued over 75,000 training cards. Okay, also as well, in some of the examples here in which PASMA support the access tower sector, they regularly carry out promotional work on the normal social media channels. You'll see them on LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook and the like. Also the promoting of towers in Tower Safety Week, like what we're doing today. But they also provide regular content to industry magazines and contribute to the work of the Access Industry Forum. You can see the sort of the logo there, AIF. For those who don't know, the AIF is a group of 11 trusted experts who are subject matters experts in their particular field. So the AIF will be rope access, towers, it will be MUBs, so that sort of organisation. PASMA's work with government is wide and varied, from sitting on advisory panels with the HSE to working with the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, Office of Product Safety, down to sort of standards in local government and trading standard teams, to make sure that what's going out there is right. They also have played a key role in supporting the all-party parliamentary group on working at height. So a key role in the APPG is to reduce injuries and fatalities from working at height. You saw earlier, I gave you an indication of how many people have fallen and been unfortunately killed in the last 5 years. So this group has been working away, and their comments have gone in. There's nine or so questions concerning working at height essentially, and the first report is due to be published in December 2018, and clearly PASMA will keep you posted on that. And of course, we as industry people look forward to hearing the recommendations that the APPG will present to, of course, Parliament and the industry. Before I finish, really easy. You can download the free PASMA app available on Apple and Android devices. The app includes up-to-date news, guidance, and the PASMA code of practice. So you're never stuck without your code of practice, being able to sort of just question people on site. Okay, so I make that 38 minutes, I think, there or thereabouts. So thank you for attending the webinar today. Just wonder if anybody has any questions. If you have, got a minute or so to take them, and then we'll if you haven't, don't worry. If you feel as though you perhaps want to send me a question offline, then feel free, and you're more than happy to do that and answer the questions. All right. If anybody wants to email me, my email is bparker@afi-group.co.uk. You've been really nice to me today because there's no questions. Normally I get about 10 questions and I'm sort of trying 10, 15 questions. I'm trying to answer them all. So hopefully you've enjoyed the webinar today and it's been of some use. This webinar, like I said earlier, is recorded, and what you will have is access to this recording perhaps later in the week, and be able to use this and distribute it. I have got a question here. As towers are manufactured, solutions, temporary works, and without good work, PASMA. Why do I need training by PASMA? If I follow the manufacturing instructions, will I be working illegally? Well, Craig, clearly people need to be clear. You need to demonstrate training. I would probably say in terms of, I think I'm interpreting your question in the correct way. How you define competence is what I mentioned earlier. There's many ways of defining competence. There's many different ways in which you can be trained, not necessarily on a PASMA user course or PASMA manager's course, but as long as you've had the training, and you're keeping your records up to date, then great. If however, and this is where when the proverbial hits the fan, you've got to prove that competence. Which is the easiest way to do that. Pull the card out of the pocket to the HSC inspector, or indeed the police if they've got primacy, and then you've got you hopefully there's no issues, and hopefully it's in date. Graham just asked a question as well. Hold on 1 second. Charlie's asked a question. Does the training for managed course allow those sitting the course to build towers, or they need to do the full PASMA course as well? They would need to do the full PASMA course as well. This is about the management of towers. All right, so we would still expect them to do the PASMA user course. Is the guidance on how long to retain inspection records? Graham, last time I remember off the top of my head, it was 3 months. In retain that. And it would perhaps be 3 months till the end of your project, because again, it'd be stand corrected on that if anybody has any other comments, but last time I recall it was 3 months, and I would if I was site project manager, I would keep them to the 3 months to the end. The biggest problem we have is that PASMA trained individuals continually erect towers incorrectly. Yep, and I think again I can see your comment there, Craig. Thank you for that. I think it's culture, isn't it? It's all right. I don't need that many braces. I don't need to bother with that top guardrail and such. Yeah, it's continual monitoring. No matter what you've done, you can't take away the vicarious liability side of things. You've still got to monitor them. You've still got to make sure that they're doing the work. You've got access now to toolbox talks clearly as well, and you can again toolbox talk them at the moment, till they're blue in the face, and they'll still walk out that door and put the tower up wrong. I think having good access to the instructions is important, and I was correct. Somebody just said 3 months after the project has been concluded, and I thought I was right. Okay, right. I think that's it for now. I don't think I've got any more questions. If I have, feel free to drop me a note. But thank you for listening. Really appreciate it.